We're fellow Vermonters here in the North Country, and I'd like you to start off by telling us a little bit of your story, because Vermont, I've interviewed many Vermont innovators, and I think your story kind of has a Vermonty tone to it. You know, we're pretty accepting of things, no matter which side of the political equation you're on. We kind of have a live and let live thing going on. And most of us celebrate folks like you. So give us a little bit of your story, because this is a journey that I guess I don't know. Do you even have competitors out there in the world?
Yeah, well, we can talk a little bit about that. But yeah, I think we're accepting, but we're also stubbornly independent and like to solve problems. So really our business, Mamava, came about from our own experience. So Christine and I were young moms, and we loved our jobs working for a design studio in Burlington, but the majority of our clients were out of town. And when we went back to work after having kids, we wanted to continue breastfeeding. And the only way to do that is to be able to pump. And we had a really supportive employer and a private office we could use at the design studio. But when we hit the road, we were constantly using these very substandard locations to make food for a new vulnerable human. And what I'm talking about there is a restroom for the most part, but, you know, pumping in cars and pumping in storage areas and kind of navigating that and feeling very isolated and demoralized when you're supposed to be feeling joyous about, you know, this new person in your life, this baby, and believing that design could solve real world problems. We set out to actually incubate a freestanding lactation suite at the design studio where we both worked. And she was kind of, and still is, the left brain to my right brain creative. And, very long story short, we came up with this idea of the Mamava Pod, or lactation suite. We placed our first unit in the Burlington International Airport in 2013. Again, a Vermont story. We knew the director of the airport. We knew that the airport had some blowback from not having lactation spaces. And we put that first unit in on a handshake and like $1 contract, because it's like a city organization. And we got amazing feedback. It got picked up by USA Today. It was on the cover of every USA Today. And that's back when print newspapers, really mattered.
I just got goosebumps.
Yep. And we were like, oh my God, we only have like a very rudimentary website, and we're a business kind of within a business, and a phone number that went directly to my cell phone. So that's where it all started. And that was in 2013.
So you mentioned a few things in that story that we could easily pass over, but I want to pause. You know, it's the advantage of smallness. People make fun of Vermont. We only have under 500,000 is our population still today. It's been that way. I've lived here for 35 years, and it's just small. Like you know people, you know someone who knows somebody else. You know, that's one of the great things about the business climate here and for startups, is that everybody's kind of got a neighborly, folksy way about them, because we are all neighbors.
Absolutely. And that smallness, I always say, Vermont, too small to fail when we're dealing with, you know, big policy issues or what have you in the government side of things. But our story even goes further than that. Down the road was one of our clients at the time, 7th generation, at the design studio. And we knew that they cared greatly about this issue. They had a baby product line in diapers and other things. And we actually convinced them, as we started to spread out beyond just Burlington to the airports in New York City, to be the sponsors of those very first units. So we were making things up as we went along. We had no investors. It's a capital heavy kind of business. We have to make a substantial thing and transport it and install it into a location. And we were proving a concept because it didn't exist before. So what we figured out is the airports had this problem. They wanted lactation spaces. We could give them to them for free if we could get Seventh Generation to underwrite it. And of course, Seventh Generation would love that great PR value. So that's really how we put the original, I think there was maybe 10 units in to that really large market of the New York City Port Authority airports. And again, it was proof of concept for where else this idea could go.
Mm-hmm. And that's another thing. There's this collaborative all for one spirit in Vermont, right?
Yes.
Like so many stories of, I've interviewed all kinds of Vermont innovators, and there's always a connection between you guys.
Yes, I would say in the beginning, that is just magic. And I think there's also the kind of other boundary busting companies like Burton Snowboards and Ben and Jerry's and some of the others we think about. In the beginning, that is super helpful for business. And then your isolation, the smallness can eventually make things potentially a little bit harder. But all in all, being based in Vermont has been mostly all really, really good for our company.